Hello, sixth grade academic strategies class. It is me, Mr. Tory the Great, or you can call me Your Highness, or Your Majesty, or His Greatness. I accept all of those. You are in week 6 flow. That's really weird to say. It sounds weird. But we are at April 27th right now. And this is the third week of phase 3, which I thought phase 3 was like when the new Guardians of the Galaxy movie was coming out and maybe Black Panther 2. But phase 3 is what we're talking about in Palo Alto. We're talking about this distance learning where we actually have to do stuff and it counts. So last week we talked about application and I gave you a worksheet to do. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go over the worksheet and I want to give you some sample answers that I had. And then I want to introduce our last memorization technique, which is mnemonics. So I'm going to flip this camera around. You don't have to see my ugly face anymore. All right, there we go. Okay, so application practice. Here's what I came up with, which means it is probably a really good answer, but it doesn't have to be your answer. It's okay. So remember, application is when we are taking what we need to memorize and actually doing something. So, for instance, it was remembering the things you did in your vacation. So I thought a really good way to remember what I did in a vacation is to journal. Maybe journal while I'm on the vacation and then reading that journal after, or maybe journal when I got back and sort of remembering all the fun things. Maybe looking at pictures I took or videos. Again, this is ways that I can remember what I did because I can't really relive the vacation. I can't go back to Italy if I was just there. It's probably pretty expensive to go back there and do the exact same thing again. So repetition's kind of hard, but journaling, looking at pictures, it was a great way of remembering all the awesome things that I did on vacation. If I need to remember the way the main character in a book looks, well, I wrote down that I would draw. I'd draw the character. But if I suck at drawing, everything I do is stick figures, that won't really help me too much. Maybe I'm going to write a description of the main character after I read that book or that chapter. What if I needed to remember a new math formula or for the perimeter of a square? So I might solve the problem. I might make new ones. I might draw it out. Again, I'm doing something. I'm not just sitting there and memorizing P equals 4S. S is the side of a square, right? I'm not just memorizing that. I'm actually doing it because that's going to help me remember it. Okay, number 4, and now I'm sure a lot of kids were thinking, what's SC, what's NC? I can't do this one. Mr. Tory sucks. Well, that is true. I do suck, but you can do this one. So let's just say SC is South Carolina and NC is North Carolina. Or we can say SC is Southern California and NC is Northern California. It doesn't matter because my answer is the same. If I need to remember how to get from SC to NC, I'm actually going to do it. I'm just going to drive it. I'm going to walk it. I'm going to bike it. I'm going to run it. Whatever it is, I'm going to do it. That's going to help me remember it. And this is my favorite one, remembering the rules of soccer. I'm sure a lot of you play soccer or any other sport. Do you remember getting the rule book out and sitting down and memorizing it in your bed before you played your first game? Heck no, because that's ridiculous. How do you learn how to the rules of soccer? You play the game, right? If you make a penalty, they blow the whistle and you learn, oh, I can't kick that person in the groin. That's against the rules. Gotcha. Now I know not to do it, right? Oh, wait, I can't run around and pull down people's pants when he plays. Is that in the rule book? Yeah, you can't touch other players. Yeah, I'm going to give you a red card for that. So you learn not to do it, right? You learn what you can and what you can't do. Okay, so that's application. That's just what I came up with. You might have had better answers. You probably did, but that's just the way I would have done it. Okay, now we're going to go back to our list here of all the things. We did repetition. We talked about that. Reading it, writing it, saying it. Visualization. I'm making a mental picture in my mind. I'm really seeing what I'm reading or what I'm hearing. I'm visualizing it. Association. I'm clustering information into meaningful groups, right? I'm relating it to something I already know. It helps me remember it that way. Application, we just talked about, which leads us to our last one, which is mnemonics. A really, really weird spelling. Has that M in there, but it's pronounced mnemonics. Now, there's 4 kinds of mnemonic devices. Okay. Mnemonics involve rhyming, abbreviations, acronyms, or sentences. And right now that doesn't mean much to you, and I totally get it, but I'm going to show you some examples of stuff. And I'm going to say, here's how you can use rhyming. Here's how you can use abbreviations. And you're going to see how beneficial this is going to be, especially when you have things like finals coming up and you're trying to really get all this information down and try to memorize it. Okay, so I have this thing that I am posting, so you're going to be able to print it out for yourself, and you're going to get to see this cool stuff in action. Okay, so mnemonics. The first thing I got rhyming. Okay, so we know that a rhyme is a word that has the same ending sound, right? So let's say you need to memorize something about Christopher Columbus, and your teacher wants you to remember that Columbus found America in 1492. Now, we know that that's false. If your teacher ever says Columbus founded America in 1492, he or she needs to go back to school, because we know that Columbus actually never made it to America. He made it to the West Indies, and saw, people's like, oh, I'm in India. I'm going to call these people Indians, which screwed everything up. Thanks, Columbus. But anyway, I've got to memorize this fact that in 1492, Columbus, he found something, right? He saw something, and he's famous for something. So, well, it's hard for me to remember the date, 1492. It's hard for me to remember Christopher Columbus. It's all this stuff going on. So I said, hey, guess what? In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. So again, I have that ending sound of the 2 and the blue. And again, there was nothing in what I had to memorize about the word blue. I just had to remember or rhyme it to 1492. So now I can better remember the year that Columbus did whatever it is that he did. Cool. All right. And actually, I didn't make this up. You probably have heard it before. But the fact is, I heard this and learned this when I was like in, I don't know, 4th grade or something, 5th grade. So I still remember it because it rhymed. So it's got to be doing something right. Let's see. What about other rhymes you could possibly think of? I wrote a couple down. How about I before E except after C? I know that one. That's how to spell words, right? Like neighbor and way, and actually those are the exceptions, right? But we're sort of remembering, how do I do it I or E when it has like the 2 letters are together? Well, the I comes before, unless it's after a C, and they give all these examples, but then there's some exceptions, like I said, that just doesn't like work at all. So actually this whole mnemonic device actually kind of sucks, but still, for like a majority of words, you'll be right on. Okay. Oh, I love this one. So I always used to forget about which months had certain days in it, right? So there's a saying said, 30 days hath September, April, June, and November, except February alone, which has 28. Now that doesn't really rhyme at all, but this first part, 30 days in September, April, June, and November, that sound, right? So now I know September, April, June, and November, they have 30 days. Now, I also know February only has 28 days, except for leap year. I know, Arjun, that's what you're thinking. What about leap year, Mr. Torrey? Yeah, you're right. Okay, when it's 29. But regardless, these 4 months are 30 days. So if I know February is 28 days, or sometimes 29, that means every other month is 31 days. So again, I'm using those rhymes to help me remember certain information. And you can take anything that you've got and you can create some sort of rhyme out of it. It totally works. Okay. Now the other one is abbreviations. Okay. So abbreviations, so these are formed from the first letter of each word. Okay. So later on we might do some note taking. We might see some of these things. But some examples are like the CIA. Okay, the CIA. Have you ever heard of the CIA before? Yeah, it stands for Central Intelligence Agency. Hard to remember those 3 words. So people say, I work for the CIA. Actually, they can't tell you they work for the CIA, or they have to kill you because they're like a spy, right? What about the FBI? Ever heard of the FBI? Well, the FBI stands for Federal Bureau of Investigation. Again, that's hard to say, hard to remember, but a lot easier thinking of FBI, isn't it? Okay, so abbreviations, something else about abbreviations, they don't have to spell out a word. Okay, there's something called MAD. It's this group of people that get together and they really want people to be aware of drunk driving, right? So they're MADD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Okay, so again, we have this thing like order kind of matters, right? I can't switch these letters around and make this DAMD that would be drunk against mothers driving. Drunks against, that's actually a totally different group that probably exists, right? The CIA, I can't make it the CAI, Central Agency of Intelligence. I guess it means the same thing, but it's just not what it is, right? Investigation of federal bureaus, right? Now, the order matters for this thing. Order matters for this, okay? So how can I use something like this? Well, let's just say that you need to do three things. You need to measure your room, buy wallpaper, and then wallpaper your room. That's what you've got to do today on a Sunday. Your parents want you to put wallpaper in. Well, there's these three things. So I might say, well, what abbreviation could I use for this? Well, I might take some letters that are important. I might take like the M from measure, the B from buy, and the W from wallpaper. I might go, oh, I got a MBD, or sorry, MBW. I've got to measure, I've got to buy, and then I've got to just wallpaper the stupid thing, right? I've got to do the thing. So suddenly I can MBW. Sounds like a car, doesn't it? Sounds pretty cool. But I know the three things I got to do by just doing this one letter. I got to measure, got to buy, I'm going to wallpaper. Okay, that's abbreviations. Those are good. The third one is called an acronym. So these are similar to abbreviations, except acronyms, they spell words you can pronounce, okay? Though they're not always real words. So for instance, we got Roy G. Biv. You ever heard of Roy G. Biv? Raise your hand if you know it. Which sucker's raising their hand right now? Because I can't see you raise your hand. This is YouTube, all right? Roy G. Biv, I think many of you know, it's the colors of the rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. So someone thought of Roy G. Biv, it kind of sounds cool. Again, I'm reading this like a word. So that's how acronyms are sort of different than abbreviations. I know I kind of read MAD, which kind of goes in the acronym phase, but usually it's MADD. Here, like the CIA, FBI, here we're saying it Roy G. Biv. Now this really works when order is not important. Here the order is important, right? I have to have the Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I can't have drivers against drunk mothers or drivers against mothers driving. Drunks, it doesn't make any sense, right? Here, I could switch around these letters and make a different word if I want to, right? Because the color of the rainbow, I don't know if order really matters for that. So I just need to know the colors. So if I can think of some sort of word or words these kind of work, I can use it. Okay. So I'll flip this over. So acronyms work well with lists of things you don't have to know in a particular order. Okay, so that's good. Now here's the fourth one, and here's my favorite. I'm going to tell you why it's my favorite. So sentences, these are really good for lists. Okay, they made it from the first letter of each word or phrase that you need to remember. Okay, so the benefit is you can make silly sentences that are super easy to remember. And I think there's some of these that you're going to remember right now. For instance, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I've got my P, my E, my M, D, A, S. You all know what this is. It's PEMDAS. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, the D, A is addition, and S for Sally is subtraction. Okay, I can remember that saying, that silly sentence, and I can remember the order of PEMDAS. What about this one? Every good boy does fine. You might know this if you're a musician, but they're the lines of the treble clef. E, G, B, D, F. Okay? And let's see. Those are some ones that your teacher might think of. I'm trying to think of if you could think any funny sentences for patience, alliance, tension, revelation, and grievance. Okay, so this is actually like the four phases of something. It's something, a psychological thing. Okay, so what I would do is I'd say I'm going to take the first letter of each word, the P, the A, the T, the R, and the G, and I'm going to write them over here. P, A, T, R, and G. Now, I need to think of some funny sentences to go with this one. So I am totally making this up. I could say, people ate totally ridiculous grapes. I don't know if that was something I'd remember, but I might try. I could say, let's see, peaches are totally really gross. Maybe if you hate peaches, or peas. I love peas. Maybe you don't like peas. Peas are totally really gross or ridiculously gross, whatever, right? So if I make a funny sentence, I'm going to remember that better, okay? Now, this one, I'm assuming that order, does order matter for this one? Order might not matter, right? This is not the CIA or the FBI. Order might not matter. This is just maybe 5 things I got to memorize. So I'm going to come up with a sentence. Okay, what if I've got to memorize all the dynasties of China? Okay, well, maybe the order is important, maybe it's not, but I can still take the first letter of each dynasty and I can make a silly sentence out of it. Now, here's the thing. You can make any sentence you want. You can make it as gross and disgusting as you want to help you remember it. You can make, now this is a very G-rated sentence, right? You can be PG-13, you can be hard R, it doesn't matter because this sentence is just for you. You're not telling anyone, right? Maybe your P, you can think of a gross, inappropriate word that starts with P that you might want to use in your sentence. Okay, go for it, because no one's going to know except you. Okay, now when it gets to a test and I've got to recite my silly sentence, well, I'm not going to write my silly sentence on my test, because then if I have some inappropriate words, I might get in trouble, right? But if I go, oh yeah, peas are totally really gross. Peas for the P's, that stands for patience. And R totally gross, it stands for alliance. And I'm remembering, I'm going back to what these things are going to relate to. Okay, on my test again, I'm not going to write down peas are totally really gross, because that's not what it is. I'm supposed to write down the 5 levels of acceptance of loss or whatever it is, right? And I have these 5 things. I write these letters down for my sentence. Peas, P, R, A, totally, T, really, R, gross, G. Awesome. I wrote those down. Now I know patience, alliance, tension, revelation, grievance. I've got that memorized. This sentence helps you remember. Okay. Now my sentences, I'll be totally honest, the sentences I come up with when I got through grad school, they were totally inappropriate. I think I get censored by YouTube if I put it. I would definitely get in trouble from my work if I told you what they were, right? But you could imagine, I was an adult, and I made some really gross sentences, but they were funny, and I remember them still today. No, I will not tell you. I might tell Miss Abdenor, because she would think it's funny, but I probably won't. All right, so mnemonics, okay? How can you use this for an upcoming history test? A science quiz, right? Again, we're in a little different situation now because we're taking stuff at home, but you still got to memorize information, right? So science quiz. Oh, I've got to learn about all the parts of a cell. Okay, all the things that are in a cell. Well, I might list those things down, take the first letter of each one, and then make a sentence out of it. Okay, and if order doesn't matter, you can switch things around. Like I might put the G up above here. Great people are totally rad. I put the G up on top. Cool. All right, whatever. Use friends' names if you want to, whatever it is. Okay, so again, that's mnemonics. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some information that I want you to memorize. I'm going to give you, I'm turning this around, as your assignment, I'm going to give you some lists of things that I want you to memorize. Your job is to come up with a rhyme, an abbreviation, an acronym, or, for a challenge, a sentence, right? Any sort of silly sentence you want to that's appropriate, okay? And you're gonna send those back to me so I can check, okay? So I'm gonna post that as well, and that is gonna be your assignment for this week 6. Okay, you're gonna send it to me by Friday, or Miss Abnor if she's the one checking it, and that's it. Okay. Next week we're gonna switch gears because we're done with memorization techniques. We're gonna switch to something different. I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna give you something about sort of like some self-calming, some sort of mindfulness activities to do next week. And the week after that, we're going to do some editing. And that leads us basically to the end of the year, which I'm sad about. But I've done a lot of talking, and I'm sure you're done listening to me. I want to remind you to please show up to our academic strategies classes that we're hosting, as well as any co-taught classes, support time that we've got going on. I want to make sure that you're tuning in for those classes if you need extra help. Okay? Any questions, you can always email me. Schoology's fine, but I prefer just a regular email to my account, and I can get back to you. Okay? Thanks so much for tuning in. I think I'm up to 7 or 8 viewers now, thanks to my mom and dad going on again. So anyway, I miss you all, guys. I'll talk to you later. Peace!